President Donald Trump is overseas, but he is not out of reach of turmoil back here at home. The Russia investigation, leaks, those all continue. And now CBS News has learned that when the president arrives back in Washington, we could see a major shakeup at the White House. Officials are discussing restructuring to help with the messaging inside and outside of the administration. Now, joining me now from Washington with details is CBS News political director Steve Chaggaris. Steve, so what are we looking at here? Restructuring the messaging team? What could be involved?
Well, first, the big caveat here is the president hasn't been presented with these proposals yet. He's been traveling, as we've been talking about, overseas, and he will be presented with a series of proposals when he gets back over the weekend or early next week to look at how they could possibly change how they deal with rapid response, with messaging. And so the proposals are one which we've previously reported, which is shaking up the current communication and press staff, which may involve people like Sean Spicer and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, but also to create two new segments, one internal and one external, to deal really with rapid response and messaging surrounding the Russia investigation. And so we'll see, first of all, when that meeting happens with the president, and secondly, whether the president agrees to any or all of it.
You know, I remember my high school English teacher told me that when you're having trouble writing, it's usually because you haven't figured out what you want to say yet. It seems like in the Trump administration, that is part of the messaging problem. People are not on the same page.
Well, the president especially has been getting out ahead of his own communication people. We saw it when he announced that they were firing FBI Director Comey. They put out some paper, then the communication staff went out there, then the president went out there with a different explanation as to why Comey was fired, and they went back and forth on that. We still haven't gotten a fully straight answer from anybody on the White House on exactly what happened there. I think that was a really good example of where there's a disconnect between the president saying what he wants to say and the communication staff saying what they want to say. The thinking here is you bring in some people perhaps that the president's more comfortable with than whoever he has currently in his communication staff, to sit him down and to work out bullet points, to work out rapid response so that everybody's on the same page. They really feel that there's something lacking here, and when they're getting into this, the higher pressure of these Russia investigations, including with the special counsel being named, they're feeling they got to make sure the communication is on point, because they haven't really been there to this point.
Indeed. So any indication on the timing of all this? How quickly could we see a restructuring?
Well, so I think we're a little bit off on that. Again, we're waiting for the president to come back before they sit down with him to actually make these proposals. And if he does agree to shaking some of this stuff up, I think we're talking a week or two at the very least. So maybe in the next couple of weeks we start to see some changes.
So the president is overseas, and as we heard from Major Garrett earlier, he has not held a single press conference. Not a lot of information has been given to reporters who are following him. What does that augur for the future of White House press briefings from the president or from any other member of the administration?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we've heard hints before he left for his foreign trip that they were going to perhaps change how they did their press briefings, maybe not do them as often. The president said that, you know, again, he's moving too fast for his press people, and so sometimes they don't have the answers for journalists. It might be easier if he just tweets and puts stuff out on paper as opposed to having these briefings all the time. We don't really know what that means for the future. I think this is a unique situation with this foreign trip, mainly because it was so busy. He had so much packed into the schedule. I don't really think they thought of reporters as they were figuring out how they were putting their schedule together. I think, I wouldn't say it fell through the cracks, but it wasn't a priority for them. Not that it's really been a priority for them when they're back in Washington either, but it seems to me that this may not necessarily be a predictor of what's going to happen when he gets back, but there will likely be some changes, I think.
Now, President Trump has sought to prioritize people who leak information from the White House, prioritize investigations into leakers. Some of those people have been identified. What can you tell us about that?
So we've confirmed that there are 3 people inside the White House who have been basically busted for leaking classified information, and they're working through the system to remove them from the White House. We anticipate that will happen in the next week or so. You know, what this means in terms of the grand scheme of leaks coming out of the White House, we'll see. But we're told that these are people who are currently at the White House, and they are in the process of being dismissed.
All right, Steve Chaggaris for us in Washington. Steve, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.